Hi, I'm Simon Randall. I'm an associate here at Robert Bird Group in Wellington. So what are the business skills that we think are critical for engineers to understand? Well, first of all, it's probably worth noting that we don't expect graduates to leave university with an in-depth knowledge of business. It's normally something which, as a graduate, you would learn in the first few years of your career. But there's a few important areas which are good to get to grips with early on. First one is understanding the basis under which we are appointed by clients to carry out work on their behalf. And that comes down to three main aspects. First is what we've been appointed to do by the client, which is the scope of services. Secondly is what the client has agreed us to pay for those services, which is the fee. And thirdly, the terms under which we've agreed to carry out those works, which is the contract. Understanding those aspects is fundamental to how every project is run. And secondly, it's also useful to understand how the fees which we charge clients are calculated. And they're made up from a mixture of staff costs, overhead business costs and direct costs, and also the profit margins which the business needs to make to be able to operate. So understanding those basic aspects of how the business is run helps to understand your job as an engineer and how you fit into the wider business. When I started my career, I spent a year out after university living and working in Japan as an English teacher, so not doing engineering at all. After that, I moved down to London and started applying for jobs. And I still remember my first job interview. I went in there and I was probably pretty nervous because I thought that perhaps my year out of engineering would count badly against me. So I was really surprised when the director who was interviewing me kept asking me more questions about my time in Japan than anything to do with engineering or my life at university. So I remember being quite surprised about that at the time. And luckily I got the job, and it was a great company to work for. And now as a recruiter or someone who's looking to recruit graduate engineers, I understand why that director was so interested in that aspect of my life. And that's because, in my opinion, a consultant engineer or a good consultant engineer needs to have a broad range of skills. Good grades and academic knowledge is the foundation of being a good engineer. You need to have those skills. But also you need to have the other skills which enable you to be an effective consultant and professional. And those are such things as being organized, being able to communicate well, being a motivated person, someone who can work independently, and someone who gets on well with other people, because you've got to work as a team. So I think for me, spending a year working and living abroad was quite a steep learning curve and sometimes quite daunting, but that gave me the skills and experience that I could have never have learned at university. So now when I'm looking to recruit graduate engineers, I apply some of that same point of view that my first employer did back in London. So now when I'm looking to appoint graduates for RBG, we look at the CV, and I'm always looking out for good grades, obviously, to show they've got good engineering skills and knowledge, but also looking for those other things as well, which show me that they're going to be a good person to have in the team and an effective professional. And those kind of things can be as varied as, playing in sports teams, organizing charity events, being involved in groups and projects in school or university, being in plays, organizing gigs for your band, and anything which shows you the kind of person who's got self-motivation, some confidence, and passion for what they do. So my top tip for graduates is, when you're doing your CVs and your cover letter, make sure you include those kind of things on your CV to tell your potential employer that you're a well-rounded person who's got the skills in engineering, but also can be an effective consultant and professional.